If you're buying protein coffee from Starbucks, protein cereal, protein bars, and you're thinking, at least I'm getting my protein in, I want you to hear me. I need you to stop because most of these high protein foods, they're garbage, like straight up marketing garbage. And they are actually making perimenopause so much harder and not easier. So today I'm going to show you which ones to ditch and which ones to eat instead so you can actually feel the difference that protein is supposed to make. Plus, I'm going to give you a tip on how to know whether or not a food that is marketed as high in protein actually is. So I see this constantly when I'm talking with my friends, with my clients, and women are thinking that they are getting enough protein. They think they're eating enough protein because they're buying all of these high protein foods at the grocery store, the cereals, the expensive protein bars, the protein coffee, but then they're still exhausted by 2 o'clock. You're still craving sugar and still dealing with weight gain and brain fog. And then when we start to look at what they're actually eating, it's not even real protein. It's a lot of marketing with a big protein label slapped on it. So today I am going to break down the high protein foods that you really need to stop buying, why protein matters so much in perimenopause, and what to do instead, plus a quick tip that's going to make all the difference. Okay, so before we get into which foods to avoid, I want to go back a step and tell you why this matters so much in perimenopause. Because once you understand this, you're going to look at food completely differently. So when you're in perimenopause, your muscle mass is breaking down a lot faster, like significantly faster. Research shows that we're losing about 3 to 8% of our muscle mass per decade after 30. And in perimenopause, it really starts to accelerate. So that matters because muscle is your metabolism, and less muscle means slower metabolism. And that means more weight gain, even if you're eating the same amount you always have. But protein does 4 massive things that become non-negotiable in perimenopause. 1, it keeps you full so that you're not constantly thinking about food. 2, it stabilizes your blood sugar so you're not on this crazy roller coaster of energy spikes and crashes all day long. 3, it really helps build and maintain your muscle, which you really have to work hard to protect in perimenopause because it's protecting your metabolism. And 4, it supports your hormone production, and your hormones are made from protein. And if you're not eating enough, then your body can't make what it needs. So here's kind of a metaphor that helped me understand. I want you to think of protein like the foundation of a house. In your 20s and 30s, you could maybe get away with your shaky foundation and everything still kind of worked. But in perimenopause, your hormones are already all over the place. Your blood sugar is more reactive, your muscle is breaking down faster, and if you don't have a solid protein foundation, everything else really starts to fall apart. And the biggest kicker is that most women in perimenopause are eating maybe 10 to 15 grams of protein at breakfast, maybe, if they're lucky, maybe, if they actually eat breakfast at all. But research really is starting to show that you need at least 25 to 30 grams per meal minimum to actually maintain muscle and feel good. That's like double and triple what most of us are actually eating. So yes, protein really matters a lot. So we all get that. We've been hearing it a lot, but I want you to also understand the problem. The food industry knows that you're looking for protein, okay? They have started marketing it everywhere. High protein this, high protein that. They know that you're in perimenopause and you're trying to feel better and you're willing to pay more for healthy food, right? So they have gone and marketed, and they make you pay high ticket for a lot of it, and they call it a day. Okay, so I want to talk through some of what the worst offenders actually are, and I'm warning you, you might not like some of this, but I would rather you be annoyed at me for a couple minutes than waste your money on food that doesn't work. Okay, first one, protein coffee. Now, I know, you're going to come back at me and you're going to say, Nikki, but you tell me to drink protein lattes all the time. You tell me you do. But here's what I'm talking about. I am specifically talking about the ones from Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. I know you love your Starbucks runs in the morning and you're like, okay, but I'm getting my coffee and my protein. It's so efficient. But I also want you to know that, like, here's an example of what you're actually getting. Okay. A Starbucks protein coffee made with almond milk is maybe 19 grams of protein. Okay, it's not terrible, but it's also 16 grams of sugar. So that's 4 teaspoons of sugar made with milk protein isolate, which is also highly processed, plus a bunch of artificial flavors and stabilizers. So your problem is that you're spiking your blood sugar first thing in the morning with all of that sugar, which means you're going to crash and really want another cup of coffee by like 10 a.m. And then you're going to need more coffee. Okay. So you're going to be hungry, you're going to be cranky. And that tiny bit of protein doesn't really offset that sugar. Okay. And look, like I said, I'm not saying you can never have it, but I would rather you have a cup of coffee at home, take a really good high quality protein powder like Just Ingredients, and make a fun protein latte. Okay. I love it because I can literally change up my flavors every day. One day I'm having peppermint mocha, the next day I'm having salted caramel, one day I have French vanilla, or just plain chocolate. And I can change up the flavors based on what I want. And it's literally a scoop of protein powder mixed with a little bit of water, and then I pour my coffee in. So it's a lot healthier and you can control the sugar and you know exactly what's in it. Plus, you're saving a lot of money because you're not going and spending boatloads of money every single day at Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. So I do it like every day. It's my biggest thing that I actually have come to love and cherish. And yeah, I still find myself warming it up about 3 times. Okay, the next one is might disappoint some of you. And some of you are like, okay, whatever. But the next one is going to be protein cereal. And there's a bunch of them out there, okay? Magic Spoon, Catalina Crunch. And look, I wanted to love these. I've looked into them. I bought a couple of them. But the biggest thing here is that they're marketing as high in protein and healthy and, all the things plus childhood nostalgia in a bowl. Okay. Who doesn't want that? But they're still processed. They're ridiculously expensive and they don't keep you full because the 12 to 14 grams of protein per serving, which is okay until you realize it's really not enough for an actual meal. So it's not going to help you support your muscles. And these are also made with protein isolates that have been processed to death. So your body is still not recognizing them as real food. Plus, some of them have additional sweeteners, so they've got extra sugar and extra all the things that your body doesn't want, and that can mess also with your gut and your cravings. And the price point on these can be really high. And so at the end of the day, you eat a bowl of cereal and you're probably still hungry again in an hour. So what you could do instead is take a bowl of Greek yogurt, add some berries, and maybe top it off with a little bit of Catalina Crunch. Okay, so something, if you want the crunch and you want that, nostalgia, then great. That's a good way to use the protein cereal, but don't use it as a meal. Okay, this is one that I have a lot of conversations with my kids actually, because it's something that they're like, yeah, let's just go grab it. And that is a protein bar. And here's where I'm going to lose some of you. You're going to get mad and you're whatever, but I want you to hear me out. Most protein bars are really just candy bars with some protein powder in them. Okay. And that's it. That's what they are. And they're, not super great sources of protein. Do I keep them sometimes so that I can have them in my car, in my purse, if we're running, around or if we're traveling? Yeah, I keep them on hand sometimes. But the thing is that I don't call them a good source of protein. I actually call them a snack bar. And they might have some protein in it, and that's great. But there's so many things and so many other ingredients in some of these that you can't call it a protein bar. I was on a call with a client one time and she was telling me that every morning she would wake up, she would have her coffee and her protein bar for breakfast. And we started to look at the ingredients and I asked her how many grams of added sugar was in it. And she told me there were 18 grams of added sugar in one protein bar. Well, I've got news for you. You're only supposed to have 25 grams of added sugar a day. And if you were starting off your morning with 18 grams of added sugar, no wonder your blood sugar is spiking and crashing all the day, and you can't have the energy you want, the weight loss you want, the mood that you want, and the stabilization that you want because you're starting your day with a blood sugar spike and crash. If you are going to choose a protein bar or something that you want to make sure that it has a limited number of ingredients in it so that you're not spending a ton of time adding ingredients that you don't want inside of your body. One brand that I recommend that has limited ingredients but is also only a snack bar is Just Ingredients. And you can see right here, it actually says protein snack bar. So it's not necessarily that it's full of protein, but it is going to be a quick snack. So something to just consider, you want to make sure that there are limited ingredients and that you're not looking at a sugar bomb. Okay. Look, yes, there are some exceptions. I told you I keep them on hand, clearly. I keep them on hand to make sure that sometimes that I have something like if we're running in between games for my kids or, we've got a couple of things or even if we're traveling. But here's my rule. If you're eating a protein bar more than a couple of times a week, then you really don't have a snack problem. You really need to start planning a little bit more. And I know that can be tough to hear, but it's so important for your health to make sure that you're not always filling yourself with that. So consider having things that you can have in the fridge. So maybe it's a batch of hard-boiled eggs that you make up on the weekend, or maybe it's a Greek yogurt that you can add in some berries or, a little bit of granola, like I mentioned before, turkey roll-ups, right? They're all real foods and they're going to cost way less and have more protein and actually fill you up than having a bunch of protein bars. This next one is going to be kind of ridiculous, and it's something that we've tried before as for fun, but not something I would buy on the regular, and these are protein chips. And there are ones out there from Quest and Wild. And look, I get it. You want a crunchy snack. You want to feel like you're eating chips while also being healthy. But I'm going to be real here. Like a chip is still a chip, and you're paying a ton of money for something that you're getting like 10 chips and not a ton of protein. So the portion sizes are super tiny, and you're like, oh, good, this is going to be a snack. But at the end of the day, there's barely anything in there. And they're made also with a lot of these protein isolates. So it's not necessarily real food, and they're also really expensive. And at the end of the day, they're probably not satisfying the craving that you actually want. So you eat the whole bag in like 30 seconds and then you still want something else. If you're looking for something crunchy, grab some baby carrots and some hummus or some celery and some nut butter, or make your own like roasted chickpeas or pumpkin seeds. Those are really great and crispy, and they have fiber and protein and all of the things that you're going to want to have an actual snack. And the last one that I don't love all of the time is protein pancake mixes. And the reason I don't love these is because, again, all of the baking mixes, the protein pancakes, the protein muffins, they seem like great options because you're like, oh, I'm making pancakes for my kids and they have protein in them. But the problem is that they're still mostly carbs. So even with the added protein powder, you're eating a carb heavy meal. And the protein is usually also very processed. Okay, so it's maybe a pea protein isolate, and you're eating them like a treat and not a meal, because what you do is you make a stack of pancakes and you add syrup and you call it breakfast, but there's not enough protein in there to actually keep you full. I quit buying these because there's also a ton of other ingredients in there. And so what I end up doing is I make my own pancakes, I add my own protein powder, and I'm not saying that you can never eat these because I've bought the little cups before when I go on road trips and I have to have something. We used to travel for hockey all the time. And so I would get the protein pancakes because I'm like, at least it's a little bit better, right? But at the end of the day, you're better off making your own pancakes, adding your own protein powder because you know the ingredients that are going to be in there. So I also serve them with protein. So instead of just having protein pancakes, I also serve them with more protein. So that includes things like scrambled eggs, or maybe I make like a big Greek yogurt little parfait to go on top, or something that gives it a little bit more oomph. Maybe it's even some turkey sausage, okay? Because that's how you're going to get enough protein at breakfast, not by adding a scoop of protein powder and calling that breakfast with your pancakes. Okay, so if all of these high protein convenience foods are things that you shouldn't eat all the time, what do you actually eat? Because I know that you're thinking, okay, I barely have time to eat. I don't have time to cook. And I hear you, but here's what I also want you to understand. Real protein doesn't come in a package with a health claim on it, okay? It's just protein. And honestly, it's usually way cheaper, way easier, and way more satisfying than all of that processed stuff. So I'm going to give you a few things that you can eat that are really good sources of protein. Eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, chicken, ground turkey, salmon, okay? You're hearing all of these things that are whole food sources, and lentils and chickpeas and edamame, okay? Tofu and tempeh. Though those are some really great options, and there's so many combinations that you can do to make these work for you. But my rule is that if it says high protein on the package, I want you to be suspicious. I want you to flip it over, and I want you to start to look at what this looks like. So here's the tip that I wish I knew, and something that I tell all of my clients, and something that you should all know. And this is a quick protein hack so that you understand if you are buying something packaged or processed, what to look for. And so that is if you take the calories on the back of the product. And so for this example, for this protein bar, it is 230 calories. Okay. And the protein is 10 grams. So you add a 0 to that protein, and that is 100 grams. 100 grams is less than 230 calories. So you know that most of your calories are not coming from protein. So that's why I say something like this is only a snack, and it's not a very good source of protein. Even though it has great ingredients in it, it's still something that's like an emergency. So make sure that when you're looking at the packaging, that you're looking to see the calories. So you take the calories and then you look at the protein and add a 0 to that protein. If the protein number is equal to or more than the calories, then you know that you have a good source of protein. If it is not, then you know that the calories are either coming from carbs or fat. At the end of the day, I want you to know this. I have 3 kids. We are super busy. I don't want you to always go down this rabbit hole of, am I getting enough protein? Should I eat this? Should I eat that? Because at the end of the day, it all goes back to consistency. Are you consistently just eating protein bars? Well, then yeah, you're not going to get enough protein, and your protein isn't a high quality source. Or if you're eating a protein bar every once in a while and you're eating whole foods most of the time, then that's going to be better for you. And that's actually going to help you hit your goals so much faster. And if you're like, okay, Nikki, great. Thank you for all of this information, but I don't really even know where to start, what to buy, where do I get all of this stuff? I need a list. Then I've got something great for you. It's called Mom's Protein Packed Meals, and it is a list of 10 breakfast, 10 lunch, 10 dinner ideas that have at least 25 plus grams of protein in them, plus some snacks as well that are good options for you. And the link is in the description. You can grab it and it will help you just give you some ideas on what you can do to get more protein in your diet without really overthinking it. Okay. So at the end of the day, here's what I want you to remember. I want you to stop believing just the marketing, okay? Don't just buy a food because it says high protein on it. I want you to look at the label, check how many grams of protein, look at the calories. Is it actually high? Are the calories actually coming from protein or are they coming from somewhere else? Okay, because so many of these say high protein, they want you to think that they're healthy, but they're not. They're just garbage, okay? And the expensive processed garbage isn't going to help you feel better or hit your goals. So start by eating real protein. Eat the Greek yogurt, eat the chicken, the fish, the bean, the eggs, because a food that doesn't need health claims on it, because it's just food, that's what's going to help you hit your goals. So if you need help with the planning, grab Mom's Protein Packed Meals. It's going to give you a week full of meals and some lists that will help you make things so much easier. And once you start eating real protein, you're going to notice that your cravings are going to start to calm down. But if you're still dealing with perimenopause cravings and you're going through the pantry like crazy, I made a whole video here breaking down why that's happening and the mistakes that are making it worse.